Okay, so at today's meeting, we're going to go over a database migration assistant uh, for Django projects called South. And basically, what South lets you do is if you're managing a database by yourself and you don't really have a guy who knows SQL by heart or whatever, South really makes it easy for you to add to your schema or remove from your schema or even migrate your data from one schema to a different schema. Um, so we're going to go over this real quick in this meeting. It should be pretty quick as far as meetings are concerned because we're just doing a little PowerPoint here. So what is South? South is an extension for Django, which allows you to basically just do everything I just said. Um, Easily updates your database schema in the middle of development, easily migrate your existing database data anytime you upgrade your schema, and everything is pretty much automatic. You just run a few commands from manage.py and you're good to go. Um, and all you need is Django, South, and it works with PostgreSQL, MySQL, SQLite, SQL Server, and even Oracle. So it actually allows you to migrate. Well, I mean, in Django, I guess you can migrate between these different databases relatively easy, anyways, by just dumping and loading your fixtures. But within the databases themselves, allows you to really easily change things. So here's an example of schema migration. So you have basically what you need to do first is install South, right? And then you add South to your installed apps in your settings.py file. Uh, and then you sync DB. And this is the only time that you should ever really sync DB unless you have something really weird going on where you have some like custom um, backend applications. And then after you do that initial sync DB, what you do is the way that you update your schema and your models from then on is through manage.py schema migration. And then for every app that you want to be controlled by South, you you do the schema migration, my app, and then dash dash initial, right? And then you can go ahead and migrate that app after you do that initial schema migration. And the schema migration actually creates a bunch of py files in the app um, directory itself that so that you can put everything under version control, for example, and other people can also migrate using the schema files that you've made, if that makes sense. So, you can have everything that South generates under version control, and other developers can pull that stuff and migrate their existing databases, and it'll go just as smooth as if you're doing it on your own machine. Um, so if we want to change, add, or remove a model in my app, you'd edit the model.py file in that particular app, and then you do a manage.py schema migration, the name of your application, and then hyphen auto. And that basically looks at your old migration or looks at your old schema, looks at the new schema that you've modified in your manage.py file, generates a difference between the two, and then applies or then generates the py files that will apply the migrations to your database. So typically in a Django project, if you don't have South installed and you add something to your models.py file, you actually need to either erase your entire database and then do a syncdb all over again, or you have to edit the actual, like, go into MySQL by hand and actually add the fields by hand and then populate the records if you need to, etc. So this drastically simplifies everything, even though it looks a little bit daunting at first. There's a little bit of a learning curve with South, but once you get over the learning curve, it's really, really phenomenal. A few things to note: syncdb is obsolete after South has been installed. If you have custom field types in your models, like big foreign keys, for my client, we're using big foreign keys where foreign keys are actually based upon big integers, and I had to create custom um, migrations for those field types since they're not built into Django. Uh, Data migrations are also possible. So an example of a data migration in South would be, okay, let's say that you're storing plain text passwords in your database and you want to convert them to a hashed password with some sort of salt, whatever, right? And so South, by default, doesn't know how to do that. So you actually need to create the algorithm that will convert your plain text password into a hashed password. And then that's outside the scope of this particular demonstration because there's a lot more involved. Um, it gets kind of involved, but you can go on the South website and view all that stuff and see the tutorials that they have. Why should you use South? You don't need to be a SQL expert to migrate your existing database. It prevents you from being locked into a particular schema at any time. And after the initial learning curve, it's a very, very, very easy migration solution. And brought to you by Victory.
Oh, nice touch. Hey, so I have a question, Ryan. Um, how often are you using this and why?
Well, for my particular client right now, I don't use South because we actually have a guy who does nothing but work with SQL directly, and so he's basically my migration assistant. But I have worked in environments before where I don't have that kind of luxury. I don't particularly have anyone on the team who knows SQL by heart and works with it day in and day out. And so, like for example, if I have a model, I had a model, for example, recently, like a user model, right? That we were like a user profile model that we were extending off of the base user model in Django, and it didn't have a birthday field, right? And so we needed a birthday field on there. And so basically, you just add the birthday field into the models.py file, and then migrate it with South, and then there you go. It's in your database, it's in your models, and you don't have to dump your existing data in your database for it to show up.
It's very useful during development, by the way, when specification changes or new features are requested by the client. It's really, really useful. Sometimes minor, what the client would consider a minor change is probably really hard to do because of the changes it involves, database-wise. South makes them extremely simple.
So we're talking about having like a development server and then, fixing it up here and then pushing that to a live server, that sort of thing?
Exactly. I was running a setup where I was using South locally, then pushing that to the development server, and whatever was in the development server would get pushed to the production server. South was used in all servers to make all the database changes.
So it's almost
I
like
had a
a
I had a
really
question for Joel
fancy
now.
sync DB command.
It's more like
Pretty much, yeah.
HG for databases, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
A
that
question
that's
about
good.
that. Can these South like schemas and stuff, can those be put under version control?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we had them in
Mhm.
version control.
for example, we have, projects where there's an official test site and then like two or three like personal test sites that get copied into the home folders,
Hmm.
And say one person makes a database change, that can get synced between everyone else. Can
Yeah,
those
Yep, yep.
if the South generates a file in your Django application, you commit that file to the repository. Whomever pulls it up just executes all the South commands to have that migration run, and there you have it.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's kind
basically
of part of
you
your poll update
Yeah,
should be poll update schema migration or whatever. Or
yeah,
my
the person who generates the schema change would run that schema migration my app auto command, and then everyone else who pulls the migration file from the version control system would just run the migrate command, and once they run the migrate command, it would update their database to whatever is in
right.
the
Nice.
schema
Because
migration file.
I know one of our clients, Revo Trades, who I think is Enrique and Sam, was actually just asking about this very thing, and I said South probably could help. So there's
Yeah,
there's our
Then there's also the thing where two different developers could check in two different versions of the next schema. Like if I did a 003 version and then somebody else did a 003, we both checked in our 003 versions. There's a slight conflict there. I'm pretty sure Seth has some basic merging capabilities for that kind of scenario, but I haven't really run into it much.
at any rate, you would be able from a previous known step recreate either database,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. Um, So yeah, you might have conflicts. They can happen, but they are kind of easier to clean up if you have a database in a previous revision.
Hey guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off because we're reaching our 10-minute limit. So hey, thanks a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely. My pleasure.
It's really sad